Hello and welcome to iQuanta's channel dedicated to your success in the GMAT exam. My name is Vikrant, I'm your verbal instructor and I will act as your personal coach for reading comprehension, critical reasoning and even the verbal aspects that are tested during data insight. So I am taking this opportunity to sit down with you and practice another passage today. So by now you know what we do. We go through a passage paragraph by paragraph, then we dive into the questions and discuss those questions threadbare. So here you go. The very first paragraph on your screen. So let's start, read this and then we'll move on. I'd advise or I'd suggest that you pause the video right here, watch it. Once you are done, play the video again and then you'd find the next paragraph. Next one, hit pause, read it, and then we'll move on. Here is next. Once again, pause, read. And the last paragraph on your screen. Done? In case you were reading in real time, I would suggest that you pause and then go through this. So now that you've gone through this passage, what is it that I want you to have in your mind right now? So at this juncture, I need you to have an overview of the passage in your mind. And by overview, I basically mean three core things. Number one, you should know what the passage is about, or in other words, what the subject matter of the passage is. So I think in this particular case, can we say that the author is commenting on the influencers using the knowledge from the Orient, which was meant to be applied to a particular category, but then they end up applying it to every mundane activity. The second thing that I want you to figure out is the author's opinion. So this is one of those passages where the author has gone on to share his take. So what is the author's opinion on that subject matter? And then finally, the third and the last thing is, do you have the key idea presented in every paragraph in your mind? So if you can have these three things, that makes your life in reading comprehension very, very easy. On the other hand, if you struggle here, then I'd suggest that whenever you work with a passage, focus on this in order to ensure that you are able to get these things right every single time. And it will come with practice. It's obviously not going to happen overnight, but that's what the focus should be on. And maybe some other day we can go ahead and talk about these things in isolation. So now that the passage is done, let me quickly revisit the passage. Or no, if I do that, your process of attempting the questions will actually be contaminated. So let us go to the questions and then when required, we can come back, look at the relevant part and then proceed further. So here is your first question. So why don't you pause the video here, solve it and then join me for the discussion. All right, welcome back. So the author finds condos tidying up unbearable because he's annoyed by the fact that. Now when I look at this question, I'd say that the author, the examiner has actually made it easy. Why? Author finds condos tidying up unbearable because he's annoyed by something. So the first thing that we do is we go on to refer to the relevant part. Now if you have the gist or the key idea of every paragraph in your mind, that process will be a breeze. So in this case, this particular part has been mentioned in the very first paragraph. So let's quickly go back and check that out. So, inspired by an episode of Tidying Up with Marie Kondo on Netflix, I cleaned my dresser drawers this weekend. It was a generally satisfying way to shirk work duties. Now you notice, that's a bit of a humor right there. He was cleaning in order to avoid doing his work. So many of us do that anyway. And in fact, that was also the reason he watched Netflix in the first place. Yet, despite my neater bureau, oh, now you notice bureau is being used in a very special meaning here. Bureau refers to a table, particularly one with drawers. So you notice that's the connection here. So he watched a show. The end result was a neater table, yet he found the popularity of this unbearable. So what annoyed him? Why did he find it unbearable? That's the question. Let's see if we find the answer here. We are awash in stuff, so a lot of stuff, and apparently so joyless that the promise of joy through house cleaning appeals to us. Anything that tells you what he was annoyed by so far? Okay, the cultural fascination sparked by condos strikes me as deeply disordered. So, well, this is something that he does find annoying. So maybe this, or if I take you to the next one, you notice he has brought out this pattern. The susceptibility of Americans to plain good sense if it can be infused with a quasi-mystical oriental aura. So Orient is basically the eastern part of the world, right? So you talk about India, you talk about Japan, that's the Orient, and then you have the West, which is the Occident. So Kondo is in several ways a Mr. Miyagi. If you know the Karate Kid reference, that's one right there. But anyhow, so you know, that's another factor. So he is somebody who's a scholar of these philosophies, and he's unhappy with the fact that they are infusing these rather simple everyday things and giving them the oriental aura. So they're infusing that with this oriental aura. So now that we have looked at this context, let's dive into the question and then check. How about A? Westerners are so joyless that the joys of tidying up clothes and house cleaning appeal to them. This is mentioned in the first paragraph, yes, but this was not given as a factor that annoys the author. How about B? Gullible Western audience consume common sense packaged as Eastern philosophy without much thought. Yes, that can be one reason, because he's a scholar and he's unhappy with this. So let's keep this in running. How about C? Eastern philosophy tricks Westerners into believing that mundane work can be a satisfying activity. Yeah, but then that is not mentioned in the context of the author finding that tidying up unbearable, so out of scope here. How about D? Westerners need a mystical orient to push them to do even the basic chores. Not mentioned anywhere in the passage at all, and therefore can be ruled out. So B versus E, whenever your question has none of these, you want to do a double take that increases the difficulty level. But in this case, we know that B has been mentioned in the second paragraph. And in fact, if you remember the third and the fourth, that's a recurring theme that the author has gone on to build upon. And thus, B is going to be our best answer choice for question number 1. Let's quickly dive into our second question now. So once again, hit the pause button, solve the question, and then come back. Alright, so let's start. Which of the following statements can be inferred from the information given in the passage? So very clearly an inference-based question that tests a bit of our reasoning ability. Now, how do we go on to approach inference-based questions? Pretty straightforward, isn't it? By now, if you know the concepts. So when I see an inference-based question, I know that every answer choice claims to be a conclusion based on the information supplied by the passage. And whenever you evaluate a conclusion on the basis of a given set of information or a given piece of information, you would be able to see whether it is true, false, or can't say. Now, I make it sound easy that you will be able to see that, but a lot of us are not able to see it. So that's what we need to train ourselves to do. So evaluate all the options and then label them as true, false, or can't say. So let's start with A. Mr. Miyagi made waxing cards a method to find one's strengths and mettle in the Karate Kid. True, false, can't say. Go back to the second paragraph, use the seeker, and you'll find this reference there. So this can be termed true. How about B? Marie Kondo can make seemingly mundane activity of folding clothes a tedious experience. Ooh. If anything, she makes it appear joyful, content, enriched with contentment, satisfying. So this can be termed false. How about C? Assigning a greater meaning to normal activities can help make the activity interesting. If you have the main idea of the passage in the mind, you would realize that the author does not like this fact that the teachings of the Orient are being applied to every mundane activity. So, first thing, this contradicts the main idea. The second problem with option C is that it goes beyond the scope of the passage. See, passage restricts itself to the teachings or the ideas arising out of the Orient, India, China, Japan, that region, to mundane, normal, everyday pedestrian activities. But here we are not restricting ourselves to those ideas being brought in here, and therefore even this can be eliminated. D. Eastern wisdom advocates seeing everything all at once to understand the mystical Orient. No. According to the passage, the people who are doing that are wrong. They should not do it. In fact, read the last sentence of the passage in the context of that last paragraph and you'd realize that D contradicts. So even this can be ruled out. And in this case, because A is true, because one of our answer choices is true, none of the above can also be eliminated. We can go ahead and mark A as our answer. So let's dive into our third and the last question based on the passage. So going by the tone of the author, we can infer that Sun Tzu's art of war is what? So pause, answer, come back. Okay. So, what is the utility of this here? We know that tone talks about the emotions or the attitude of the author. So, there are times when our words may convey something that is completely different from the way those words were delivered. And that way, that method, that how the words were delivered can make a significant change to the meaning of the words. For example, say, what if I meet you one of these days? I may look at you and say, oh, my dear friend. But what if I say, my dear friend? So you notice I'm using identical set of words in both the cases, but in the second case, even though I'm saying my dear friend, even though that's the selection of words, am I being friendly towards you? So we are being asked not to take things literally, we are being asked to interpret it using the tone-based clues. So let us go back to the paragraph where Sun Tzu has been mentioned. So here you go. Popular, so this is the one where it is introduced. So let's look at the context to figure out the tone. So popular uses of East Asian philosophies often tend this way. Which way? Toward making the circumscribed expansive. So when you circumscribe something, you limit it, you restrict it. On the other hand, when you make something expansive, you give it a wider territory, you expand it. So those things which are limited are treated as things which are unlimited, towards making small wisdoms carry water for all the wisdom. So something which is relevant in one particular aspect, you just apply it to everything under the sun. This is how the ancient military theorist Sun Tzu might end up guiding your retirement saving. Now you notice, he wrote Art of War. Okay, so he basically talked about how you can win battle, but then the paragraph tells us that nowadays it is being used to guide you around everything under the sun. Even notice, coaching your kids' football team, improving your marriage. Art of War, talking about how you can improve your marriage. That's one oxymoron right there. Is marriage more like a battle? So superficially, and look at the word superficially, and then look at the tone. Marketed to gullible Western consumers. What reads like straightforward instruction on wartime espionage might yet have something to teach us about our children. So we need to assume that Oriental wisdom is never about this or that, but always about everything. So basically, in the context of the passage and specifically the paragraph, the author is not in favor of doing that to things that come from the Orient. He's using Sun Tzu's Art of War to give us an illustration that, see, you're picking up something that is designed to teach you how one can win battles and then applying it to everything that is out there. So, which one, which one would come closest to the idea? So Sun Tzu's Art of War is a book that can be applied to all walks of life, not just to wartime espionage. That's not what the author will agree with. His attitude is that it is not right. It is being done, but it is not right. So let's rule it out. It's an instruction book on wartime espionage and should be treated as such? Yes. It contains self-help advice apart from being a wartime manual? No. The modern gurus are giving it that stance, but the author does not agree with it. D, it is a self-help book at the heart. No, it is not a self-help book at the heart, at its heart, going by the author. So even this goes out, and because B is right, we can eliminate none of these, and thus the best option should be B. So here's a thought that I want to leave you with. So please make sure that you do something today that takes you towards, in your case, a better score in the GMAT exam. And once again, if you're new to our channel, don't forget to press the subscribe button. And you can actually also turn on the notifications by pressing the bell icon so that whenever we upload a video, you are the first one to know. So that's it from me today. I'll see you in the next one.